Landslides, road collapses, earthquakes. Tell us about Alaska: The Last Frontier, this show that.
Alaskan Jane Kilcher, The Last Frontier has encountered numerous challenges in the rough Alaskan landscape, but her abrupt separation from Otslee Kilcher left fans in disbelief and wondering responses. The true causes remained a would you like to know the mystery up to this point. Join us as we explore what actually transpired. Discover Jane's little-known tale and issues that you should be aware of. The final frontier before us, Alaska. Reveal what transpired with Jane. Crucial to understand the type of family she entered. Alaska: The Last Frontier is a reality in America. TV shows that captured viewers for more than 10 years. On December 29 on the Discovery Channel 2011 to November 13 in 2022, the program offered a unique and intriguing look into the lives of the Kilchers, are a strong and independent clan that subsists on the land in Alaska's untamed wilderness. The Kilchers have Swiss ancestry. Pioneers from Alaska and immigrants. Yule and Ruth Kilcher, the founder of their homestead situated more than 8 decades ago about 11 miles beyond the town of the homestead, Homer, has been inherited over many generations, evolving into more than just a residence but a profound way of life based on tradition and survival. As opposed to the Kilchers, have a lot of contemporary families decided to adopt a way of life that denies a lot of the comforts of they don't live in the modern world. Contemporary heating system and instead depend on their own abilities to maintain hunting, fishing, farming, and careful planning for Alaska's harsh winters are crucial to their everyday lives. Existence of one especially well-known ace singer is a member of the Kilcher family. Songwriter Jewel is well known throughout the world. Kilcher, a musician, is one of the main. Jewel's father is one of the characters in the show. This has introduced an additional layer of interest in the family's narrative. Demonstrates that you recently wrapped up filming My Family, huh? Was unintentionally found. Alaska is a really hot place to discover topic that you have almost likely seen. Joel describes her family's found for the program that Joel has appeared on the show, re-establishing her connection to her heritage and spending time with her family in Alaska wilderness. With the exception of Jewel, the woman who enthralled the audience is, let's reveal, the Jane at Lee's wife. Attributes that made her appealing to the audience. Incredible information about Jane. Jane Kilcher was more than just she was simply another reality TV character. The foundation of innumerable the final unforgettable moments in Alaska Frontier, whether deftly directing her line for fish or remaining steadfast throughout. Family talks about Jane's sincerity. Was constantly clear that she was the ally you would want at your side if you were ever lost in the wildness of Alaska. Because she was tenacious, witty, and kind, she became a lighthouse for the audience. Overcoming the difficulties of homesteading. Despite the fact that Jane was not born into she quickly rose to fame in the Kilt family. A vital component of their Alaskan story of entering Alaska, the previous frontier. To viewers, she wasn't just the wife of Otslee Kilcher, was a lady prospering in one of the most difficult environments that highlight her distinctive flair that is expanding near the house in Kilcher, a charming town, and she separated from her family in Homer, Alaska. Focusing on hunting and agriculture by becoming into a skilled fisherwoman, her early years spent close to the shore gave her with unmatched abilities. She could reel when others failed in fish, and she undoubtedly displayed such ability on the Jane was often in the forefront of providing the family with fresh seafood and vital resource in the hostile Alaskan environment. Observing her catch a massive fish or traverse icy seas deftly was actually fascinating, but Jane's input went above and above fishing, offering a much-needed balance in the frequently the austere and solemn Kilcher men's humor. Their witty banter added humor to the environment that delights viewers as she made fun of or joked with others during when under a lot of stress. She possessed the capacity to engage the audience in a sincere manner, and she didn't hesitate to openly display her vulnerable side. Acknowledging when she was afraid or overcame, a unique trait in the difficult domain of Alaskan survival. Jane further acted as a connection between the modern world and culture way of life. After spending a portion of her life outside the homestead, she presented a new perspective on the show despite not being born this way of existence, and she totally accepted it. Proving that you don't require generations of expertise about homesteading to thrive in the woods. This her relatability won her admirers, yet Jane's path hasn't always been easy. Sailing like the erratic state of Alaska, whether her journey has been full of both sunny days and gossip-fueled storms regarding family conflicts to extremely personal frequently questions. Jane's life off-screen appeared to be equally dramatic as what the cameras showed her growing throughout time. More guarded in her private life, she expressed her annoyance at being perceived only as the spouse of Lee, or the fisherwoman. Thought there was a lot of more about her story off camera. She is a lady who is fiercely independent and loyal mother to Piper, her daughter, and another. She values her privacy in spite of in the limelight right when you expected you were aware of her 2003 introduction. A turn of events nobody saw coming, her shocking. How did Jane handle her divorce from Lee? Change from being a beloved character in the frontier of Alaska to confront some of the most difficult situations in life in public. Jane faces difficulties as a result of her job is more complicated than just living the dream on reality television. Like a lot of small-screen celebrities, Jane's the story took unexpected turns at times. Some were quiet, while others were nice. Difficult right away, Jane appeared as a well-known person in Alaska, the previous border. But as the show became more well-known, likewise, examination of her private life resulting in issues. At first, Jane felt at ease around her. Portrayal as a fisherwoman is true to life. Demonstrated her proficiency in fishing. But as time went on, she started to feel constrained. Jane wasn't merely a competent fisherwoman who was self-sufficient, multifaceted person. Regrettably, the program frequently fails to highlight these several facets that make her character a little flat and obscured by the drama of the homestead and Kilcher men. She wasn't the only thing that defined Jane. She was a wife, mother, and fisherwoman. Far more to offer than what was broadcast. She has freely disclosed her not being happy with her depiction of the stereotype of the Jane discovered the lingering fisherwoman. She found it frustrating that the show's editing decisions weren't accurate, represent her ignoring her difficulties. Crucial decisions and individual development that took place outside of the famous person when she was more than the picture of the fisherwoman that repeatedly won in the view of. So, let's all look at how Jane Kilcher's persona evolved into on Alaska, the last. Lost in the mix primarily because of the family's dynamics and the tendency of the show to highlight specific people over. The Kilcher family is as big as the others, and varied as Alaska's enormous territory itself. At the family's head is its Suts. Kilcher is a rugged, seasoned man who has experienced a lot. Lee Kilcher, his son, faces difficulties. He is daring and somewhat distinctive. Disobedient and constantly looking for thrills, however. He also harbors a deep affection for the at first glance, bland Jane. Lee's wife appeared to like the ideal ratio of serious to with tough kilt guys. She was powerful, competent and reasonable, which made her an vital component of the family. But as time went on, her part in the family and on the program started to shift. Despite Jane's great advantages, she frequently seen in the background of Alaska. The Last Frontier was a television program that not focused on the female members of the Kilcher family. It was mostly concerned with the sturdy, hardy soldiers who fought against the harsh Lees, and Alaska's conditions were being in the spotlight, facing difficulties of wilderness survival and pushing the boundaries of their challenges were important to the drama of the show. Putting them front and center. Jane, on the other hand, was frequently positioned in a supportive part as the men were displayed combating severe weather and assuming risky tasks. Jane's contributions were occasionally disparaged for her abilities and seldom were obstacles presented in the same way. Instead, she was frequently referred to as the fisherwoman's reduction of function to one facet of survival instead of rather than showcasing her entire spectrum. The editing skills of the show also played a role in this emotional conflict, and the men's accomplishments were emphasized with passion, resulting in their life seems to be smaller than experiences. In the meanwhile, Jane's difficulties and victories were frequently viewed as insignificant or not given as much dramatic attention, as this produced a lopsided representation where the men were viewed as the valiant combatants. Contrary to nature, but Jane's function appeared less important and in contrast, Lee Jane's spouse was a multifaceted personality both on and off the he was depicted on the show's screen as fearless, daring, and always willing to take chances in nature as the son of Kilcher, with whom he had a close relationship but frequently battled with his family's customs. He was seen as a free spirit all the time battling between his untamed personality and his obligations. His voyage was crucial. A section of the show's plot that is full of personal struggles and poignant situations, but outside of the event, their relationship had an additional aspect that was not always displayed to viewers. There was not all there was to their narrative. Recorded their difficulties on camera. Private spheres and the extent of their connection was not always completely examined throughout the series, leaving viewers using just a portion of the image while Otsley was shown as a man dealing with his inner conflicts and hazardous circumstances. The deeper facets of his connection with like any other, Jane stayed more secretive. Otsley and Jane Kilcher as a pair have its share of highs and lows and downs, but during the show, it frequently thought that Otsley wasn't as he may have been more involved in Jane's story. Become his own challenges, daring journeys and emotional conflicts took center stage a lot, leaving Jane's voyage into the darkness as the audience witnessed Otsley confronting grizzly bears. Traversing the wilderness, and Jane was silently facing his history. Keeping it together, she was a mother as well as a wife. Homesteader and a crucial component of the survival of the family. However, the show hardly ever shone the subtle power she provided to their life during the absence of Otsley accepting risky challenges or Jane was battling his own demons. At home, running the household and creating ensured the requirements of the family were satisfied and contributing in ways that frequently went unbeknownst to her. She was instrumental in maintaining everything's smooth operation, but as her difficulties weren't dramatic or action-packed. Received the same amount of focus as though the show's editing decisions were obviously in favor of the most extravagant personalities of the men from Kilcher, highlighting their viewers' profound emotional journeys. Thorough analysis of Lee's conflicts in addition to Jane's guilt and those of his father encounters frequently felt like after giving it some thought, she was significant but wasn't always granted the acknowledgement she so richly earned. Not that Jane didn't have her, though, personal shining moments. She had an unquestionable presence and possessed a powerful character in and of herself. The issue was that the show didn't, not her, give her adequate airtime at all times, otherwise the recognition she was due in spite of essential contributions she frequently made depicted as merely a supporting character in the Kilcher men's larger narrative. Conjectures regarding family disputes over time. Conjecture regarding tensions started to rise in the family. At first glance, the Kilchers seemed to be an intimate family, but behind the scenes, there were rumors of conflicts and tense relationships. There were allegations that Jane had a falling out with some family members, contributing to the continuous drama surrounding the program. Being scrutinized by the public meant that every minor problem could be blown out of proportion. And soon after, headlines started to imply that not all things were as peaceful as reports suggested. Jane's disagreements with some of the additional Kilcher relations, which further fueled the story of the family turmoil that encircled Alaska, the previous frontier. But here's the unexpected twist: in spite of all the rumors, and Jane was resilient in the face of criticism. While the Kilcher continued to be the main emphasis, she kept track of men and their difficulties, demonstrating her value in a more subdued, regular manners. Even if she wasn't, those who paid are always in the spotlight. People were aware that Jane had a vital part in maintaining everything collectively. She might not have received the same degree of focus, but her presence was indisputable, and her tale might not been vocalized as much as Lee's. However, Jane, it was equally crucial, ultimately discovered the assistance she deserved, although she wasn't always informed by the show's complete narrative. For those who followed her on social media, witnessed a radical shift. They saw the true Jane on her side. A lady who shared laughter with her kids, loved her family dearly, and faced difficulties that weren't depicted on television across time. The criticism she was receiving started to change. Fans began to understand that reality television merely depicts a tiny portion of a person's life, frequently leaves out the most crucial information rather than passing judgment on or considering the scant representation they witnessed. The last frontier people started in Alaska. Supporting the actual Jane, the one who was not merely a supporting character in another person's path. Despite all of the highs and lows, Jane she managed to balance while keeping her head up. Her part in the program, while simultaneously acknowledging the annoyances that more significantly, she created a life outside of the spotlight, a life that was not limited by the removal of preconceptions or the demands of reality television. She refused to allow her portrayal to, instead of getting disheartened, define her. She changed the public's perception of it. Into inspiration, she stuck to revealing to her fans a side of herself that had never been shown on film in its entirety. She refused to allow the restrictions of the show held her back, but she made use of them instead, as motivation to forge her own route and demonstrate that she was not merely Jane at all. At first, Jane was just a fisherwoman. Seen as the female fisherman on the final frontier was Alaska, but throughout time she developed into something far more than. She became a representation of a woman's tenacity, who resisted being falsely represented, and someone who battled to be recognized as she was who she was. And her path wasn't only concerning wilderness survival, it was about defending herself and breaking liberated from how others desired to characterizing her, and demonstrating her strength comes in a variety of ways. But her strength was truly put to the test when life throws a nasty curveball. Fight her way to Atsley's almost death accident, the identical man who was observed repeatedly making it through the difficult Alaskan conditions, forcing him to the edge and confronting nature's most formidable difficulties. He unexpectedly found himself in an actual struggle for survival. It was the turning point that altered everything, was a test of perseverance that none had anticipated. Atsley had already been recognized for his sense of adventure and his fearlessness nature. He wasn't only battling this time the wilderness where he was defending his life, battling their obstacles. In 2015 saw the limelight while hiking with Atsley, a buddy, experienced a horrifying accident that altered his entire life. A terrible tumble down a precipitous cliff so bad that it caused him to have several fractured his arm, leg, ribs, and who knows what else was broken. Impact, it wasn't merely a minor wound. Was the type of mishap that might have ended tragically for a while. Appeared really bleak on the way to the lengthy and taxing recuperation process, required severe and numerous procedures, recuperation, and a degree of stamina that would put even the hardest person to the test. Considering that anybody who has ever witnessed a loved one who experiences something similar is aware of traumatic injuries don't only have an impact on the one who is harmed, is impacted. Daily interactions with everyone around them, emotions and routines are upended. Life as they had known it, but it changed and quick. But Jane didn't think twice when it came to taking charge. She became Atsley's rock while he was recuperating, providing her with steadfast assistance while maintaining doing stuff together at home. She took care of her and ran the home family and kept things in check while Atsley concentrated on recovery at this time. Jane's actual strength turned into it was unquestionably not about drama. High-stakes wilderness survival. It wasn't about battles driven by adrenaline. Her strength, in contrast to nature, was in the she.